Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. That was weird as an intro. What are we going to be talking on our next podcast? Let's get started. It's called The Language of Silence, Hearing What Words Cannot Say. That's going to be awesome. So let's get started. In our noisy world, silence can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. But silence has a language of its own. It speaks truths that words often cannot carry. Today I want to explore how silence is an emptiness, its fullness, its wisdom, its presence, and it's a pathway to deeper connection. Yes, silence. I know that there is a lot of people, it depends on the day for me, that will not handle silence at all. They need the noise. They need that background noise to get going. And for me, it depends on the day. There is some days that I will do that, and some days it's just silence, and I'm just fine with that. So, the many faces of silence. Not all silence is the same. There's the silence of avoidance, the silence of fear, and the silence that feels like absence. But then there is intentional silence. Silence that listens more deeply than words ever could. Silence that allows emotions to rise without judgment. Silence that becomes a balm, a sanctuary, a teacher. Think of how a pause in music can make the next note more powerful. Silence gives meaning to what surrounds it. And it's so true because I take the example of, when I was on a deck a few years ago and laying down or just sitting and observing. There were no music, no TV, no phone, nothing. Just listening. And through those silence, you could hear actually nature, which was beautiful because it was a different world, looking at everything closely. Now, when you are in silence, and there is some retreat that goes silence. People do not talk. It's all reflection. They're all working on themselves. They're observing Mother Nature. They really immerse themselves without communicating. Also, I remember my mentor was my uncle. We used to sit for hours side by side, not even talking, because our silence were speaking. We did not have the need to communicate, actually, which is awesome. So you have different kind of silence, and I know some people are uncomfortable when you create a silence. When you create that silence that people are like, oh, I need to talk, I don't feel comfortable. You have to be comfortable with silence. It's the same when we're comfortable to be alone, and some people cannot handle to be by themselves. They're freaking out. They have to have people around them. The example, because we're slightly shifting from the silence, but it's relatable at some level that when COVID hit, most companies, unless you were essential like grocery stores, but most companies had their people working remote. And a lot of people did not take it very well because they were isolated and they felt that. And I remember we were connected twice a day actually, just to make sure everybody were okay. And for me, being silent all by myself was just fine. But it's just to see people's reaction to it was amazing. I was amazed to see how many people could not handle to be by themselves. It was just like, holy moly, they needed the human contact, the constant talking. But when you think about the many faces of silence, it's amazing because some people, in relationships, maybe some people will not want to talk to their partner because they are mad. Maybe they did not do something they're supposed to, or it's a guessing game. Sometimes when people get playing games, sometimes they don't talk to you, so you stay silent. I've done that to Mommy Dearest actually when she wanted to provoke me, which I turned her nuts because I would not respond. So I stay silent. And I turned her nuts and triggered even her more. But it was one way for me to just stood up to her. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you because I don't want to have a problem at the end of the day with you, but I'm going to stay silent. I'm going to stay silent and you're not going to like it. So silence has different meanings, but we have to look at it in a way that it's a way of communication. Silence is a way, being silent is a way of communication as well. Words says a lot. Silence says more. I always say to people, when I stop and I become quiet, that's time for you to pick up your stuff and run for the hills. When I stay silent, it's not a good sign. But you have to decode those silence and not being triggered by those silence, being used to it. So there is a different way to do that as well. So silence in a relationship. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's talk about this one. This is the one nobody wants to talk about. Oh, let's have a little fun for this one. So, we often think connection comes from saying the right words, but something that most healing moments are worthless. Sitting in grief with someone without trying to fix it. Holding space in an argument without rushing to defend, and allowing pauses in conversation instead of filling them. Silence isn't withdrawal. It's presence in its purest form. It says, I am here with you, and that's enough. Often when we are going in situations that are difficult, grieving, and you can be grieving a person, an animal, a place, a situation, a job. You don't need to have the words. You just have to be there for that person. And just by presenting and be there for that person is sufficient. The words are beautiful, but the silence are more powerful. Now, let's talk about relationship, like I said before. Holding space in an argument. Because sometimes we get into that vortex of madness when somebody triggers you, and you can be a screaming match. Sometimes we need to take the time to think or breathe and count until 10 in order to listen what the person has to say and not automatically respond. We have a tendency to do that. So holding the space, it's really giving the room to breathe as well. It doesn't escalate things because, it's very easy to argue with somebody and I can go from 0 to 10 in less than 10 seconds. When we give room for that silence to be there, then it allows us to keep ourselves grounded as much as possible. And not responding right away gives us time to hear the words of the other person. So when we're looking at that space, then it is good to have one. It's not ignoring the partner, it's taking the time. Now, same thing during conversation, and you might see this in corporate world, where people take the time to pause in conversation instead of rushing to try to fill the blank or to answer. Those pauses are necessary as well so people can hear everything and we can respond in a better manner because we, again, have a tendency to do not do that most of the time, I must say. It's rushing. So this is quite, I would say, interesting to be able to have this happening. Silence is beautiful. It's majestic too. It can be heavy at times, but silence is great. So silence as resistance and renewal. In culture addicted to noise, constant opinion, and endless scrolling, choosing silence can be radical. It resists the urge to perform, to prove, to explain. It says, I do not need to add to the noise. I choose to listen instead. And that's what I was practicing at my place, was taking the time for 5 minutes and I moved to a half an hour, 45 minutes, just being silent. Such a great, interesting challenge to do. And acknowledge the thought. Just acknowledge, not going into, because there's going to be thoughts coming in. Your head, your little head, that big voice in your head is going to say, well, it's time for me to just rattle the cages while you're doing your silent moment. But it's very interesting when you really take the time to acknowledge those and let them pass. You let them pass. Okay, I acknowledge you, I see you. Okay, have a nice day. I'm not interested. And the next one will come. And as you continue to practice, less and less of the thoughts will come. And then you're going to experience the silence, which is so rewarding, so refreshing. So here's a little practice for intentional silence. Daily quiet, like 5 minutes of stillness before checking your phone. It's not that bad, 5 minutes. You can close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Just feeling tension in your body, feeling your body, seeing how you feel, ground yourself. Silent walk. Notice the world without narrating it, which I love to do because I do that every morning with the pop-ups. Even when we go play tennis, I notice everything around. It's so nice to be able to do that. And not engaging in conversation, but just enjoying where you are. Really, it's really being present in the moment. That's the key, being present in the moment. Silent meals. Experience food without conversation or distraction. That's another thing too. When there is a retreat here, this is what the practice is. It's for people to eat and really absorb, and not only the flavor of what they're eating, the sound, taking the time to really experience it. Because we have a tendency to just eat and just disappear. No, there is flavors. There is a moment where you're going to be in communion with your bodies and you want to eat, you want to enjoy the food. Not shove it down your throat, but you could do it too. But that's not the same taste if you take the time to eat and quiet. Silence reawakens our senses and our soul, which is so true. As I said, sitting down for 5 minutes outside on the deck and looking at the pond that was across from the deck was amazing. It was totally amazing. It was amazing because you discover a different world. You're observing the tree moving. You're listening to actually the frogs having conversation, and then the birds. You have different birds having different conversation. And you're noticing the sky, the clouds. It's so interesting. It's fascinating because we are so used to run on the go with our phones and our deadlines. By the end of the day, we don't even realize we need to ground ourselves and be present in the moment as well. In order to co-create, you have to be present in the moment. But it's so amazing when you're in a silence what you can do and how refreshing it is to disconnect from everything else. And silence is beautiful. So silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of awareness. When you step into silence, you create space for truth, for healing, for wisdom. Sometimes the deepest answers don't come in words. They arrive in the quiet, waiting for you to hear. I have explained that many times, that when I was doing yoga at home, I never did it in studio, I like to do it at home, and I was just focusing on the movement. I was focusing on what I was doing, the pause I was taking, the muscles, and focusing on that, nothing else, and breathing. And also then I got the answer of some of the issues we had during the day. I just got the answers, and like, oh my God, I got the answer right there. So I had the notebook on the table, and I would stop for a sec, write it down, continue the yoga. I would walk around lakes as well and do the same thing too. It's just nice to notice, to be present in the moment, to have our own awareness and disconnect from social media, from everything, from our computers, for that world that is not our world, but just an extension of what we need to use. So it's very nice when we take the time, just 5 minutes of silence. As I said, you can eat a meal quietly. It doesn't need a TV. You turn off everything and you just enjoy the meal. You will realize when you start to eat is the flavor. When you bite, every bite has a different flavor. It's noticeable. Silent walk. It's not that difficult to do a silent walk. You can go outside and just walk around and observe. It's amazing what you can discover when you're walking. I have noticed so many things, and it's been a great teaching moment actually for me in noticing what's going on around and really observing and see the magic of the universe on the top of it. So it's always a good thing when you create the magic like that, to be part of it and recognized everything, which is awesome. So again, take a moment to learn the language of silence, but you will understand at the end of the day that it is just magical and beautiful. It is really bringing the awareness, being a presence of the awareness, and aware of where we are, aware of our bodies, aware of our outer condition where we are, just for a moment, and slowing down. I think one of the keys is learning to slow down, because that's one of the biggest key ever. But the silence will teach us so much more. So practicing a little moment of silence, even sometimes when I drive with the car, I don't even need to use because generally I go and put Skyrock up with something else on. I don't. And I will drive and I will observe and I will listen. And it's just enjoyable. It is so nice and refreshing. It's just amazing to do that. So try to make it as a practice. Even for 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes. Do it in the morning. Do it at night. And practice that when you're at home and just you're with your family or you're by yourself, either way, anywho. Just turn off your phone, turn off every distraction, and just enjoy the meal. It's so much relaxing and beautiful. So, all my love, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
relationship